Tax is a hot-button issue on the campaign trail, and today the Obama administration detailing its new plan to cut the corporate tax rate from 35 to 28%. But there is much more to that headline. Stu Varney is the anchor of Varney and Company on the Fox Business Network, and he's with us now. Instead of rejoicing that the president is proposing a tax cut on corporations, you are saying this could be very bad news for American corporations. Why?
Because there is a big new tax included in these proposals. This new tax would tax any profit made by any American corporation overseas, whether or not that money is brought back to America or not. The president is trying to establish a global tax net which we've never established before. This is brand new and potentially goes after America's most successful companies.
So give me an example of how a corporation that's doing business both here and overseas would be affected.
Intel. The world's greatest chip maker, right? Everybody knows Intel. Major success story. It makes 85% of its money, its profit, overseas. All of that money would now be taxable.
We don't tax that right now here in America.
Only if it comes back to America. If they repatriate, as they say, you repatriate that money, yeah, you pay tax on it. But if it's kept over there,
if you make it overseas and you reinvest it overseas and it never touches the American shores, we don't touch it.
Now the president proposes to touch it, to grab it, reach out and grab it wherever it is.
Could he possibly do that?
Yes. Judge Andrew Napolitano this morning told me, yes, you can do that legally. The courts would probably go along with a congressional authority to do just that.
All right, but the president says the reason he wants to do this is because he'll lower the effective tax rate for most corporations, and he wants to encourage those companies like Intel to do business here in America. You're going to get taxed American rates anyway. Might as well move the factories, et cetera, back into the continental U.S.
Yes, lowering the corporate tax rate, that is the headline proposal. But that is a distraction. It distracts attention from this underlying new tax, which we've never seen before. It is correct to say that the president wants to lower the tax rate. That's right. He also wants to get away from and do away with a whole bunch of so-called loopholes that would actually raise more tax revenue.
He says companies like that are taking advantage of so many subsidies and loopholes now that they pay a very low effective tax rate, way lower than the 35%. And he wants to make it more fair.
Right, he does. And I guess to some degree that would be the case if you lower the tax rate and get rid of some of the loopholes so that everybody pays a little bit more in tax. But that's a distraction from this huge new tax that's also contained in these proposals. Everybody's focusing on, oh, the lower tax rate, wonderful. That's a distraction. Look at this big new global tax, very important.
When you look at the plan from these Republicans who are running for office, Gingrich wants to lower the corporate tax rate, Romney does, and so on. They don't also have a provision that would then start taxing the money those corporations make overseas?
No, they do not.
So this is something that's special to President Obama. But tell me this, Stu. I think a lot of our viewers are watching this thinking, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we tax them for, doing business overseas? That money comes back into America and it incentivizes them to move factories perhaps back into America. What is the downside of doing that?
The downside is that you are attacking financially America's most successful companies. Take Apple, for example. There is no better known American company, no better success story. Apple has $100 billion in cash. That money is now taxable. President Obama looking for revenue, going after the very most successful companies in America.
So what do you think would happen? Job cuts?
I think they would have to pay this tax if it were enacted, and who knows what tax rate it would be in the future. If the government constantly needs revenue to pay for all these spending plans, how do you know how much tax they would take out of American corporations in the future, which never comes back to America, but which they would grab from overseas?
It seems like the president will give an effectively lower tax rate, however, to certain companies like green energy companies and so on. It seems like the tax plan as he's proposed, it does have some significant benefits for certain industries. Is this picking winners and losers?
Oh, precisely that. It's picking favorites. Green energy, a favorite. Oil companies, not a favorite, a target. They would be subject to much higher taxes. Take the case of Exxon. They make 45% of their money overseas. So now they would be taxed on like 45%, and they'd have to pay higher taxes on all of their income because they are an oil company.
Is there any chance this encourages those companies to pull out all of their American business to
Yes.
take the remainder that's here in the United States. Instead of bringing it all back in, they take it all out.
Yes, the big names will probably not leave America, but second and third tier companies might say, you know, we make all our money overseas. Why should we be headquartered and incorporated in America? Why not go to Bermuda? Why not go to the Bahamas? Why not go to Britain, Germany, and any place else? Why not leave America? That view would be encouraged.
Well, there's a real question about whether this will pass, that this can be accomplished, given the House and even the Senate, the makeup of those two bodies
Just
right
gives
now.
you a sense of direction, though. Here's what they will do to get money.
Stu Varney, thank you, sir.
Sure.